Hi, Tahsan. Let's take a look at this new set of essays you wrote here. Let's see what you said. The bar chart illustrates the movie preferences of young adults around the world. At first glance, the highest number of male and females, the highest number of males, females preferred comedy films. In addition, the same number of males preferred animation and drama. All right, careful with this. What does that mean? Does it mean that animation and drama had the same number, or comedy, animation, and drama had the same number? That's a little confusing, so just be careful with this, okay? Let's see. 145 units of males, okay, love comedy films, while 137 units of females enjoyed action movies, nearly 20 units less. Now, I know that in your email to me, I mentioned that when you don't have a description of what this number is, that you can use units. But I also told you that since we're talking about men and women, you can just assume and call it 145 women, 145 men, and you would have been okay. Now, because this is worldwide, it's probably safe to assume that, obviously it's not the case. I mean, it's not 145 men worldwide. It's probably more like 145,000, 145 million, something like that. But since you don't have that information, you really just needed to say 145 males, okay? And that would have been really more than enough. So, 63 males preferred animated movies and drama. There was a huge difference in the preferences of romantic and horror movies, since 73 males preferred horror movies, which was more than double romantic movies. Okay, let's see. So here you've got enjoyed, you've got preferred, difference, and then preferred again. Okay. I was a little worried that your vocabulary was a little repetitive. It's okay. It's fine. Yeah, you have preferred twice, but that's not a big deal. I guess maybe it becomes a big deal when I see it again here, and then here again preferences, and then preferences, and then preferred, and then preferences. So yeah, it is a little repetitive. You want to be careful about that. There should have been a little more vocabulary. A little better range, all right, so that there's not so much repetition. When you've got only about 150 words, you need to be careful that you're not repeating the words, the same words, too much. All right. This issue of vocabulary, another issue here is with coherence and cohesion. So the issue is both how you organize your ideas, but also how you linked them. You didn't really have anything in terms of linking devices, no sort of cohesive device at all. So you went 145, 137, and then all of a sudden you're talking to me about 63, which doesn't seem totally logical. Maybe you could have connected this to this number. Maybe you could have said at half the number of action movies were animated and drama at 63 each. Okay? And then another huge difference occurred in the preferences of romantic and horror films, since 73 units, etc., etc. So you need to link these together better. Definitely this needed some sort of linking device, but then even here, there was nothing kind of gluing these separate sentences together. You just kind of like, placed them next to each other without thinking how they connected to one another. So that needed to be done a little better. Let's look at your next two. You got two more paragraphs? Okay. 145 females preferred comedy, which was slightly higher than the preferences of romantic films. The number was almost the same for action and drama movies. Okay. Furthermore, there was a difference of 10 units between horror and animated. All right, you didn't give us that figure. It's not that important. It doesn't really matter. It's fine. So it is noticeable that the preferences of males started from 31 to 145. In contrast, for female, the number was 54 to 137. Oops. Moreover, both genders had an equal number in action comedy films. There was a major difference in preferring romantic movies, as the number of females was almost 4 times greater that of males. All right. So I guess you mean this to be a conclusion. It's okay. I guess if you were to do a conclusion, I might not include the particular data that you did. I don't feel like these pieces of information that you have selected are particularly telling. I do like what you said about the range here. So, but I would have phrased it differently. So you could have said that preferences of males ranged from 31 to 145, whereas for women the range was smaller, 54 to 137. That would have been okay. But then what could you have said that you haven't already? Maybe just that you know what I would have said? I would have said that while preferences for action and romantic movies differed greatly between the genders, preferences for animation, comedy, drama, and horror were relatively the same. And that for me would have been a pretty good conclusion without too much data or anything like that. So I understand why you might want a conclusion. Like, I guess maybe on its own it felt kind of short to you, but I'm not sure. Actually, you know what? Let me check how many words this is. Yeah, I don't really think you even needed one. Let me just double check what it would have been. It was 199. And oh, yeah, I see. Okay, so you felt it was too short. Okay. Yeah, okay. So without that last paragraph, you were at 137 words, which is probably why you felt you needed this. Like I said, I would have selected different information. I don't disagree with a conclusion. Sometimes a conclusion can really help wrap up the information together nicely. And that might be the case here. But like I said, I would have just selected different data. For me, the other big problem here is with grammar. There were consistent mistakes with plurals. This is something you keep doing. You're not putting S's where you're supposed to. It's like everything is singular. So you really want to be careful with that. Now, from what I saw here, you were concerned that your task 2 was too long. That's what you wrote in your email, I think. 342 words is a little long. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's tragically long. It's a problem if you go off topic, and it's a problem if you don't have enough time. If those two situations occur, then yes, writing 342 words is an issue. Otherwise, it could potentially just mean that you're developing really extensively, and that can be okay. So let's actually see what you wrote here. Nowadays, many people are traveling domestically or internationally. There are obviously many advantages to it. However, some people argue that it also has some disadvantages. In my opinion, the benefits are people can know different culture, and the traveling can make them enthusiastic when they will again get back to their jobs. In contrast, the drawbacks are there can be flight delays and may cost a lot of money. All right. First of all, this one didn't ask you for your opinion, so you did not need to write it. So this isn't really necessary. You could have totally cut this out and written something much shorter. So why don't we try something like this? Let's look at it again. Nowadays, many people are traveling domestically or internationally. It is said that there are many obvious advantages to it. However, it is also believed that travel comes with numerous disadvantages as well. Both views will be discussed below and supported with evidence and arguments. And that's it, okay? So that's how I would have done that. Let's continue. People observe different lifestyles by traveling to other countries. I'm just going to try to correct as much grammar as I say. They learn their religion, festivals, and culture. In this way, people get involved with local people and enjoy cultural festivals with them. For instance, in Bangladesh, sometimes we see tourists enjoy cultural festivals like Pahela Baishak by wearing the same clothes local people wear. People can also learn new cultures by traveling to different parts of their country. They can see people with different accents, different way of living, owing to the climate. This kind of involvement makes people relaxed. They do not worry about their work or other issues, which help them to get back the motivation to work. Okay. It's okay. I didn't really love this part here. I felt like it kind of just came out of nowhere. So as far as the cohesion part of it, that needed a little work for me. Back up a little bit. People observe different lifestyles of people. They see too many people. Look, people, 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 people. So you really have to change around some of this vocabulary too. So let's back up again and try it from the beginning. People observe different lifestyles when traveling to other countries. They learn different religions and festivals and can get involved with local people and enjoy their cultural festivities or their cultural celebrations with them. Okay? For instance, in Bangladesh, we sometimes see tourists enjoy cultural festivals like this by wearing the same clothes local people wear. And then, why don't we change this around? Travel can also be a wonderful stress reducer. So, travel has been found to make people relaxed as they do not worry about their work or other issues, and they can return to their work with renewed motivation. Okay, that's all you needed. And then here, you really just could have gotten rid of this. I know you thought it was too long, so I would have gotten rid of that portion there. Okay? So let's move on. Now, here you do need, again, another linking device. You're switching sides. You're talking about the negatives now. So you need to indicate this to your examiner. So something like an in contrast would be perfect here. In contrast, traveling has some difficulties as well. Okay? So start it with a nice topic sentence where you introduce what the paragraph is about. So in contrast, traveling also has numerous disadvantages. While traveling, people may face flight delays or cancellations. This affects this affects their schedule since the booking time. Since the hotel, taxi. No, let me try it one more time. This affects their schedule since the hotel check-in and taxi are linked to it. For example, there was a local news of, no, not there was a local news, but there was a story in the local news of Pratham Alo that a flight from Dhaka to China was delayed for 10 hours which made people angry and they had to reschedule the times. Traveling to, okay, fine. Additionally, because you've got a new argument now, traveling to a different country can cost a lot of money. It can be worse if travelers are not aware of the price of local products. This can cost them extra money. All right, cohesion here. Costs a lot of money, can cost them extra money. It's just too much of the same. So, additionally, travel can cost a lot of money. This is especially a problem if travelers do not know costs ahead of time. They may spend money they were not prepared to, and as a result, may need to make changes to their budget. Okay, so, okay. Honestly, that's not a disadvantage of travel. That's a disadvantage of poor organization of your travel. So I'm not completely on board with the argument here. And essentially, this isn't really what the essay is asking you about. When the essay it says what are the disadvantages of travel, I mean, they mean in a more general sort of sense. So think, for example, places that have tons of tourists, they lose their sort of authentic feel because restaurants, hotels, and other sort of things associated with travel cater to tourists. So they lose their authenticity. A lot of times, there are certain cities now that are putting limits on the numbers of tourists because it's just too overwhelming for the city. They cannot handle so many, and it's just a difficult situation for the people who live there. Another disadvantage of tourism, you could have said that, it has a huge carbon footprint. People driving, people taking planes, these are all things associated with a great amount of carbon emissions. And so it's an enormous disadvantage of travel. Okay, so these are some things when we think more generally about travel as a concept, some disadvantages that come with it. I kind of feel like what you were talking about here, we're essentially, obviously we talked about poor organization, but here it was really just an inconvenience. Okay, so just think about that and what they mean when they talk about the disadvantage of travel. All right, let's move on. In a conclusion, traveling has both pros and cons. S. People have the opportunity to know others' culture and take part in their festivals. S, again. Moreover, people feel relaxed since they do not, remember, we do not use contractions in essays, have to worry about their workplace and regain enthusiasm for work. Flight delays and flight delays and extra costs make traveling difficult as they have to reschedule their time and recheck their budget. Okay, who is they? You want to say make travelers. So flight delays and extra costs make traveling difficult as travelers have to reschedule their plans and recheck their budget. All right, it's okay. So obviously there were a couple of things I took out. Obviously I had to fix a lot of grammar. So these are things you need to work on. You definitely need to revise your grammar, work on it a bit since it's consistently a problem, especially those plurals. You've got to work on those as well as some of the other things we talked about. Go ahead, correct these. Let's see more work from you, and I'll be waiting. So good luck.